Hey everyone, so in today's video I'm trying out a new art product, and this one is called the Etcher Mirror. It's pretty much a device that lets you trace, and I will get more into that in a second. If you recognize the brand name Etcher, that's because I've done a couple videos on their products in the past. They had the Etcher Art Satchel and the Etcher Slate, and this is their latest product. I'm really glad I'm doing this video because one, I really like the Etcher products, but two, I feel like I just haven't been doing enough reviews lately, so yeah, let's jump into this. I have not opened it up yet. I've seen videos of it, but I haven't tried it out myself yet because I wanted it to be an unboxing and first impressions and all that. So here's what the box looks like. You can see a couple different configurations that you can use the product in, and it comes with the mirror board, the stand, drawing paper, and there is an app you can download. And I already downloaded the app just so that I was ready to go for the video. So let's open it up. Ooh, there's a little paper that says the setup. 1, set up the stand following the picture on the left. 2, insert the mirror board with the missing edge sitting at the lower left corner of the stand. And 3, place your device vertically or horizontally leaning against the stand and ensure the stand and paper sit on the same level. Place the stand in a comfortable position, ensuring the mirrored image is shown on the paper. So then next we have the drawing paper that's included. I'm gonna see how much it is. This is a review, I gotta count this kind of thing. I have 11 pieces in mine, and then looks like this is the mirror. It's lighter than I thought it would be. I thought it would feel like glass. It feels like plastic. Ooh, yeah. Well, it looked good until I got my fingerprints all over it. And then there are the stand pieces. And this is packed very flat, which is neat, because that means it's very portable. You can fit it in your Etcher Art Satchel or your Etcher Slate. So there are 3 triangle pieces that stand up and 2 back pieces that hold it in place. You really have to push them to get in there, which is nice because then it's not just gonna fall apart on you right away. So that's what it looks like. And then the glass piece just goes right on top. So this notch has to go in the lower left corner. So I guess just like this. I'm assuming that's when it's facing you, like this way. Because if it's like this, which corner is considered the left corner? No, wait, according to the diagram, it's if you're looking at it from the back, it has to be in the left corner. But yeah, I wonder if that applies if I flip it. Like, does the glass also have to be flipped? Yeah, that's the whole thing. Cool, I like how sturdy it is. Even the mirror is staying in there really well. So the idea is you put a device that has a screen here, and you display an image, and it will reflect the image onto your paper. And then you have to look through the glass to see what you're drawing. So I'm gonna try out 3 devices with this. I have my phone, I have this iPad, which is about a medium-sized one, and then I have the 12.9-inch iPad Pro. I feel like this is probably too big for this stand, but I'm curious to see if it works because I feel like that would be the most convenient for me since I use my iPad Pro. This one, I don't touch ever. This is really my husband's iPad, so hopefully the big one works. Plus I do art directly on my iPad Pro, so this could help me a lot if it works out. So I'm gonna go into the app. I just downloaded it in the App Store. It is available for Android as well because I have it downloaded onto my phone. We're redefining traditional art. Seriously. Bring any image to life. Sync this app with your Etcher Mirror device and let the fun begin. I feel like that's a little misleading because there's nothing to sync. All I did was download the app, and this is just plastic. There's nothing to sync, and so that's a little confusing. Any surface you want, project images onto any surface, paper, textiles, clay, wood, you choose. however you want. Is the sketch too small? Now you can resize it, adjust the brightness, and get to work. Wherever you want. Light, small, and easy to carry. Trace and color all your favorite images. Camera obscura. 16th century. Some artists utilized light to assist in painting. 18th century. Because of the difficulty of mirror manufacturing, its use was not widespread. Camera lucida. 19th century. Manufacturing improvements made optical painting more widely practiced. That one's like that Crayola product I reviewed. And the Etcher mirror, present day. We're redefining optical painting. I'm going to see what settings does up here. Tutorial, language, history of Etcher mirror, and then a link to the website. Here is probably to take a picture. Yes, I have a case on mine, so that's kind of interfering. I might use that feature right away. And then you can also just select a picture from your photos. I have like nothing on this iPad. I have a perspective grid, which actually is one of the things you can do with this, is project a perspective grid, and that'll help you draw something, but I'm not going to do that. First, I want to see what can physically stand on this. Like I said, I have a case, so let's see if this fits. It kind of doesn't. What if I remove the flap? Okay, it fits now. It's not really going into the groove very much, but it's enough to keep it from slipping, and it is holding. That is just a very big screen though, because the actual mirror size is small, so I'm curious to see how that will go once it's actually turned on. In fact, I'm gonna do it right now. I'm gonna flip it over though, so that it's in left-handed configuration, and then maybe you'll also be able to see from my little side camera. The only thing is the app is not rotating, and that's an issue because I have this case on, and so it wants me to put it this way, but my case is a bit wide. I mean, it's kind of holding. It's holding onto the edge of the case though, like the lid, not on the actual iPad, but I guess that's a workaround. So my brightness is already maxed out on the iPad. I'm gonna start turning off some lights here. I guess I need to take an image first. I thought I could use the bird as a practice image, but it's not letting me move it around or scale it or anything, so hold on. So we have some options here, like the brightness, and we can add different effects to it. I think it's more noticeable if you have an actual photo. It'll convert the photo to outlines, but mine already basically is an outline. You can flip it, rotate it, add a grid, lock it so that it doesn't slide around on the screen, and then save. Okay, so let's see if this works with my big ol' iPad. So there you can see the art being projected onto the paper, and then you can trace it. And since it is mirrored, I can just hit the mirror button on the screen to flip it over. I'm gonna do a little test. I'm gonna outline the blobs in the background. This feels so weird because I can just see a lightened version of the pen I'm using. Now that I'm getting farther away, it's getting a little more difficult. I just feel like I'm lacking precision. It feels like what I'm drawing is slightly above where the reflection is, like the reflection is deeper into the paper than my pen lines. So I keep thinking I'm farther from the paper than I actually am. Okay, I'm just gonna stop there. I did have to turn off a lot of lights though for me to be able to see it clearly. So I apologize if the video footage itself is not that great. Suppose I can turn this on a little bit and still see. It's just a bit harder. So now I want to try this again with the smaller iPad to see if it works a bit better. So for this one, I'm going to go into my gallery and grab a photo. These are all really old because I have not used this iPad in so long. Let's grab that photo of me and Tom Felton. Yeah. It always goes to half brightness by default. If you max it out, it's not any brighter than the original image. That's actually just what the image is supposed to look like. So I find that kind of interesting. You'd think it would go beyond that to even brighter. So here's an example of me turning it to the line mode, and you can adjust levels and whatnot. Again, oh, I see, there's just a delay with this one. That's just adding extra lines. We can mirror that. Cool. So let's put it in there. This iPad fits definitely a bit better. It still doesn't go in very far into the actual stand. It's like you need a really skinny device for it to actually go all the way down. Okay, for this one I'm gonna want to zoom in a little bit more, I think. Let's zoom in on my face. Yes, I just want to stare at myself all day. Why did that just move? There's no one back there. Ew. So going in. Again, there's that little bit of disconnect where you're drawing above the reflection. It almost feels like I'm tracing over some art, and then there's a piece of glass on top of the art, and then my paper. I know that sounds like I'm just describing a light box, but yeah, it kind of feels like that, I guess. But like there's a gap between the thing you're tracing and your other piece of paper. Does that make any sense? It'd be like having a light box, then the paper you're tracing, and then a sheet of glass, and then the paper. So that the surface you're tracing and the surface you're actually drawing on are at two different levels. I might try flipping the glass, because remember it had to be in a certain orientation. I didn't know if it had to be flipped when I go into left-hand mode. Oh no, this is definitely not as good. It was better and more crisp the other way. One thing I want to test, because I just noticed this, is just the size of the reflection. So I'm seeing the other side of my face right here, but that feels wider than what I'm seeing on the screen. Or is it? Is it all in my imagination? I just noticed that when I flipped the glass, it looked like the reflection was narrower. So I'm just going to compare this to the size on the screen. I gotta flip it. Yeah, it did make my face wider than it actually is. I want to try doing the flipped glass thing again. Yeah, now when I'm looking at it, my face looks a lot skinnier. Are you guys seeing that? Is it just me? Now let's compare that. Yeah, that's narrower than my actual face. So it's not like a one-to-one reflection. It does warp the art a little bit. Wait, what's this? Or is that just me doing this? Oh, that was just my scaling. Because it says X, I thought that would change the width so that you could adjust it. So next I want to see if I can eliminate that disconnect I feel, where it feels like there's some distance between the reflection and my pen. Because the surface of the glass is raised a little bit off the table, I'm going to raise the drawing so that it's at the same height as the glass. It did say your art has to be at the same height as the device, but the glass itself sits a little bit above the desk because of the way it clicks into the device. So I just want to see if this makes it a little easier. No. If anything, that just made it worse. Okay, never mind. Yeah, it feels a lot better just doing it the way it already was. Okay, my cat's a little crazy. This could be useful for something where you can't use a light box. Like, let's say you want to transfer a sketch onto some wood panel to then paint it, or onto canvas, or you want to transfer one of your drawings onto a shirt or a tote bag or what have you. Then this could be one way to do it. It is a bit small, so you'd have to work in pieces. Like, let's say I wanted to transfer this very large. I'd have to zoom in and move the image around, cover the whole... The space it reflects is pretty small, but you can do larger images by just zooming in on the image and then sliding it around on the screen and moving your paper around to get around that. You'd have to make sure you line it up properly, though. I just feel that weird disconnect between where I'm looking and where I'm actually drawing. Like, I cannot get the level of precision that I would want for something like this, especially if I'm going directly in inks. If it was just resketching it roughly, that'd be a good way to transfer it quickly, but I just feel like I cannot do nice lines. I'm sure over time you'd get a little used to it, but I just feel like where the paper is and where the projection is, they do not quite meet up. Not like I'm seeing double, although it does feel a little bit out of focus. It's more just, like I said, the depth. This is something that I guess replaces a light box too in some cases. What I do sometimes is I sketch something on my iPad and then I transfer it to my computer, print it off, and then trace it using a light box. So this theoretically could help eliminate a step if I just directly attach the iPad and trace it onto marker paper, but I just don't think it's precise enough for me. So real quick, I want to try with my phone, and then I'm going to turn the lights back on because I feel like this dim lighting just doesn't look very good. So I'm curious to see how my phone works with this because it is very wide. This is actually wider than my iPad even because, I don't know, it has a case. It's an iPhone S9 Plus with a case with a pop socket. So will it even fit in here? No. I mean, it does lean forward. That's about it, which kind of works. No, then it's not projecting it at the right angle. It's projecting it like diagonally. The text is going up like this. Does it technically still work like that, or is it gonna look skewed? Oh, oof. Ooh. Well, it's not skewed, but it's basically impossible to trace this way because the edge of it is hovering. Wow, okay, yeah, so no, it doesn't work. It did say in the instructions, or like on the videos I watched, it had to be leaning back on this, but I cannot, even without the pop socket, I don't think it would really fit because the case is too thick. So that's something to keep in mind. I did take the case off my phone to try using it with this, and I felt like it was a lot better. There was less of that gap between where it felt like I was drawing versus where the reflection was. And so I wonder if it's because the phone was then skinnier and could sit farther down into the machine, like it can go all the way in almost, whereas thicker devices stop higher up, and maybe that's why I had more of a disconnect. The only thing is that because the device is smaller, the projection is closer to the mirror, and so I found myself hitting the mirror with my hand while I was trying to trace it, but it was definitely more enjoyable with the smaller device. My phone is just so slippery without a case. While I was setting it up, I dropped it right on the desk, and that was fine. It was a hard fall, but it was only a few inches, so it was fine, but I just like keeping my case on my phone. I'm gonna go over the pros and cons of this. The main thing I like is that it is light and compact. It folds down super flat, so it's really easy to travel with it. Considering most people have cell phones on them, really you could use this anywhere. It's very portable. It's also very sturdy, considering it's all plastic pieces. The way it assembles is very sturdy, very rigid, which is really nice because it looks like something that's gonna fall apart, but it doesn't. I would say another thing I really liked about this was the software because I liked the different features you had. It was simple yet effective. It just has what you need to prep your artwork a little bit and get it ready to trace. But in terms of actual functionality, I feel like there are things that could be improved. For me, the biggest downside is that disconnect between where the image is being projected and where you're drawing. There's just that slight difference in depth that makes me lack precision when I'm tracing. As someone who already uses a light box for tracing, I feel like the light box works a lot better than this. But if you're someone who just wants to loosely trace something, or you have a kid who wants to be able to trace stuff, I think this would work really well. The other downside was that it warped the image, the reflected image. Like I showed you, depending which way I had the glass flipped, it would either make the drawing too narrow or too wide. That's a huge issue when it comes to tracing art. Like again, comparing it to tracing with a light box, you need it to be the same. The other thing was the way these groups are designed to get so narrow at the bottom that most devices aren't going to be able to tuck in all the way. And my iPad with the case on wouldn't even fit unless I flipped the lid up and over, but then the app was facing the wrong way, and the only way I could then fix it was to rotate the art, but I still had to reach all the way across to hit the different buttons in the app. So it'd be nice if the app would rotate to be one way or the other, so that when you do have to do it that way, it would still work and I wouldn't have to reach to the far side to reach all the tools and buttons and all that. I know you could just get your settings all done up and then put the iPad on this thing, but you don't know what it's going to look like. You need to tweak your settings for it to be optimal, and you need to be seeing what it looks like projected on the paper in order to do that. And so if all your buttons are upside down, then it's going to get confusing. So in the future, it'd be nice if the app rotated when you rotated the device. I would say the final downside is the price, because this is $36 USD, which is $48 Canadian, and that's a lot for this. I wasn't even expecting this piece to be plastic. I thought it was glass. Not that that makes a huge difference, but it just feels like something that should be at most $20, and that's factoring in the app, which is free technically, because it's just there on the App Store for free. But I'm including that because I think the technology associated with the app is a big part of what's really cool about this. So yeah, I feel like it's really neat. Like, it's a neat concept. I love how light and portable it is. It's just not something I personally would use in my everyday workflow just because of how much precision I need. I need my art to be traced exactly how it already looks with no warping, and I need that precision of knowing exactly where I'm putting my pen. Because not only is there a little bit of disconnect, your hand and your pen look a little foggy because everything just starts to overlap. You're seeing like the real paper in your real hand, but also the reflection, and it just starts to get confusing. It just messed with my eyes too. It felt like I was looking at something out of focus, even though it was crisp. It just had to do with that depth thingy that I keep talking about, but to me that was the biggest issue. Another thing that makes it hard to be precise is that the pen itself is less visible when you're seeing it through the glass because of the reflection being projected onto it. It's almost like you're just seeing a ghost of your pen, just this light version of it, and so it can sometimes be hard to see where exactly you're putting the pen. It's not the worst thing in the world, but it just feels really weird only being able to kind of see your hand, like you set it to 40% opacity or something like that. I think whether or not this is something you're interested in depends what kind of art you do. Like, what are your goals with your art? For me personally, I would still find myself using a light box instead of this. There are times where I can't use a light box, like I was saying, if I'm working on wood or canvas or something, and that's why I have been considering getting a projector, but I don't think I would use it often enough to justify paying for a projector, but this would be something that could potentially help with that. But like I keep saying, I just don't know if I can get the precision I want. It could at least help me maybe roughly get my sketch onto the canvas, and then I can tweak things from there. But if you're going for super, super precision, it's going to be a bit of work. I think it would probably just take a bit of getting used to, especially with the whole depth thing. The more you use it, the more you'd get used to that. So that's something you could get better at doing over time. I know this is kind of a negative review, but I just have to be honest for one, especially as someone who does a lot of tracing with their art, tracing sketches onto different paper. I'm used to that sort of thing, and so I know what I'm looking for. You might be looking for other things, but this is just from my perspective and the kind of art I do. So yeah, that's the Etcher Mirror. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll see you in my next video.